Alright y'all, welcome back to the channel and to some more buckshot testing, and today we've got another new choke that I'm really excited to test. I have not seen much on this as far as other people testing it or even forum posts or anything like that on how it performs, and I think it's a pretty new choke to the market overall, definitely within the last year or so I believe. So I'm excited to try it and see what it's capable of because it could be a really nice performer. But for the choke we've got today, I picked up one of these. This is a Kicks Howler Predator choke. This one in particular is the Howler H, which is for heavy shot instead of just lead. Like I just mentioned, have not seen a whole lot on these chokes. Are they just a buck kicker that's in a different box? I have no idea. I did take this out and actually measure the legitimate constriction of this choke. This one is for Remington threads. It's the Howler H, and this particular choke measures at 703 constriction. So essentially somewhere between a mod and full, kind of improved modified constriction area, but that 700 range generally does pretty well with a lot of buckshot loads. So could this potentially be just a buck kicker light full? I don't know. We'll see what we get, but this is definitely going to be pretty interesting to test with a lot of different predator loads and even buckshot loads and stuff like that to see if it actually makes a big positive impact or not. For the shotgun we're going to be running today, I brought out my Remington 1187. It's got a 28-inch barrel on it, and if we got a good choke and a good shell, this shotgun is going to do its part and give us a pretty nice looking pattern. So this is kind of our baseline, and we'll see what we can get out of this howler today. But for the shells we're going to be running, I had to start with what is essentially a dedicated predator style load, so I brought out some of these, the Hevi-Shot Dead Coyote loads. These ones are a 12 gauge 3-inch 12 pellet load of double-aught buck moving about 1350 feet per second. Now what's interesting about these is that they use what Hevi-Shot claims as a high density frangible tungsten. To my knowledge, it's just essentially Hevi-Shot. It's the 12 density non-toxic stuff that you typically see with Hevi-Shot, but supposedly they're frangible pellets to kind of save the pelts and stuff. I definitely want to test these in some water jugs and stuff and see what they do, but for an expensive loading, I think these are like $45 for 5 shells. They do pattern pretty well, so we'll see how these Dead Coyote shells can do through this Kicks Howler choke. In theory, should be a pretty nasty predator combination, but we'll see what happens. But as for today's test, everything is set up the same as usual. I've got the target at 40 yards, the chrono so we can get our velocity, and the template so we can lay up over our results. So let's get you guys a view of that target, and we'll take our shot with these Dead Coyote loads through this Kicks Howler choke and see what we're gonna get. I don't know what kind of patterns it's gonna give us, but let's take our shot and see what happens. Okay, that shell gave us 1397 through the chrono. Boss claim is 1350. So from our 28-inch barrel plus a little bit of choke at the end, we're getting up and moving on out pretty good. I mean, almost 1400 feet per second for a 12 density double-aught buck load. That's going to be absolutely hammering some coyotes and stuff out there to 40 and beyond without a doubt. So we've got more than enough velocity, but how did they actually pattern through that Kicks Howler choke? Let's go check it out and see what we got. Alright, so now we're down here at our 40-yard paper, and this is what we got. For reference, the white dot was the point of aim, the paper is 36 inches wide, and we did have all 12 pellets on the paper, and relatively centered up. So our pattern is not bad at all. That's absolutely going to be coyote medicine all day long. However, I did measure our farthest 2 points across, which is that very bottom pellet, essentially to this top left pellet up here in the center of the screen, and that gave us 22 inches worth of spread at 40 yards. It's a pretty even spread overall. It's not too blotchy, but we have seen a tighter pattern from these previously. I think we were getting 16 to 18 inches somewhere in there with a couple of our other tests with them. So is this the tightest spread we've seen? No. However, we don't have any major flyers or anything like that, and some people are gonna prefer their predator pattern to be a little bit more on the open side, because if you send at least 1 or 2 of these double-aught 12 density pellets into a coyote at almost 1400 feet per second, you're gonna get the job done, hands down, no doubt about it. So overall, just on the blank sheet of paper initially, pattern isn't bad at all. Is it $45 a box good for these shells? That I don't know. That's kind of up to you guys, but at least we absolutely have a usable pattern on our hands here. So let's throw a couple templates up, which will give us a little better reference than just this bare sheet of paper. So first up, we have a 10-inch circle, and at 40 yards, we have 4 pellets of the 12 within our 10-inch circle. That's still plenty enough for Coyote's vital area to get the job done, but we don't have the hottest of core area either. If you're somebody that likes really tight, hot core patterns out of a buckshot load or something like that, if you're coyote hunting with it, then we don't have the perfect core going on here, but still, that would absolutely be coyote medicine all day long. So next up, we have a deer template. Now, right off the bat, I would not suggest shooting these at a deer. If they're frangible like they claim, you're just not going to get the penetration you need. However, I will use this for a quick size reference for the people that may be more familiar with the average deer torso. That way they can get a good reference point on what this pattern looks like. As you can see, if this was a normal buckshot load, absolutely capable of taking a deer all day long. But since we're just using this for a quick size reference, now I'll put up a hog template, and that'll get us a little closer to an actual coyote size. Okay, so here's that hog template, and yet again, would not suggest using these for hog hunting. You're just not going to get the penetration if the pellets are actually frangible like they say they are. But this gives us a much better size reference for a coyote since I don't have a coyote template yet. Their body would be just a little bit smaller than this hog template is, and as you can see, you would have multiple hits right through the central vital area. So out to 40 yards, that pattern is absolutely capable of taking a coyote, or you could absolutely take a fox with that as well, or whatever the case would be. Plenty good enough for any of your predators, fox, coyote, bobcat, whatever the case would be. So overall thoughts today on this Kicks Howler choke, seems to be a pretty decent performer. That's absolutely a usable pattern just like that. But so far, I don't think it's anything super groundbreaking, at least not with these Hevi-Shot Dead Coyote shells. That's not a bad pattern whatsoever right there. If I had those shells and I had that choke, I would not be scared to predator hunt out to 40 yards with it all day long. But it's not as good as what we have seen from some other chokes as well. So kind of somewhere in the middle. So now we'll have to test that choke with some other loads and see if we get a really nice combination out of it. But for a starting point, it's absolutely usable. Not a terrible pattern performance right there. And here's the wad out of that shell. As you can see, pretty simple basic design, nothing super fancy. It is scored up pretty good down here at the bottom, but that's nothing unusual for a ported Kicks choke. Nothing stuck down in there. You can see a little bit of buffer material, but that's it. We did have one petal open a little farther than the others, but overall, looks very much normal. Nothing out of the ordinary here. Alright, well, what did you think about that performance right there? Once again, I think we've pretty well covered it. That's not a bad combo right there at all. It would absolutely take any predator out to 40 yards or so all day long, no doubt about it. You could probably push that to 50 and still be alright with it. So we're off to a decent starting point here with this Kicks Howler choke. Now, is a $60 choke with a $45 box of shells worth it for that kind of performance? I don't know that it is. I guess it just depends on your thoughts or opinions about it. But I definitely think we can find a good load that choke really shoots well. So we'll run some different stuff through it. Some double-aught, some 1-buck, some 4-buck, maybe even some T's or some BBs or something like that. And we'll see how it does. Because this isn't a bad performance at all. But I think it's got more in the tank as well. So leave all your thoughts down below. Is that about what you expected to see? Were you a little surprised one way or the other? Have you ever tested one of these Kicks Howler chokes? And if so, what kind of results have you seen? Is that a combo that you would ever use to predator hunt with, or are you just going to stick with your stock full choke and a double-aught load or something like that? And what other shells do you want to see us run through that howler? Let me know all that down below. But with that being said, I've got some more testing to get done for you guys, so I'm going to get back to it. As always, we have the channel Instagram as well as the mailbox where you can send stuff if you'd like. All the information will be in the description if you're interested in it, but I'm going to get back to it, so I'll see y'all in the next one.